including the one you're working with, and I know you're working with several others too. It's the same deal. And I had them tell me, they go, look, we know this is what people want. We know this will get ratings. But then from up above programming, even up above, the vice presidents were the big money people saying, we're not going to have that anti-New World Order stuff on here. We're not going to legitimize it. And that's why the mainstream media is being delegitimized.
Well, all I can say is my show coming up has nothing to do with the New World Order.
No, I understand. It's with unsolved things that have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a case of, there's a lot of questions that still loom out there. And we're going to give both sides of the issue. I want people to understand that, too. We're not just coming at this show with a perspective in mind that, okay, this is what we're going to promote, this is the way we're going.
Sure.
We are going to, the people that, like at NIST, that do these reports, they will have the opportunity to defend what they say. And ultimately, It will end up the viewer.
Well,
the viewer will see all things, and ultimately the viewer will have to make up their own mind as to what they do or do not want to believe.
Well, Governor Ventura, my whole point is this, to make it clear. I think this is an idea whose time has come, and I frankly can't think of a more perfect person than yourself, very imposing and intelligent, basically stomping around, going after bad guys and investigating things.
Well, let me add this, Alex, here, so everyone, all your listeners will be clear. Do you remember the great film Philadelphia with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks?
Yes, the film
where Tom Hanks is the lawyer who contracts AIDS.
Yes.
And then goes to Denzel, who's kind of this slipshod lawyer who advertises on TV that we always see, and seeks him out to defend him in this major case. Well, the part I took home from that more than anything is also the attitude I'm going to bring to this show, so that all your listeners will be clear on this. There's a scene in there where Denzel Washington turns and says this words. He says, "Explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old." Do you remember that from the film?
Yes.
He makes that statement, "Explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old." Well, that's the aspect I'm taking forward on this. Explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, so that we will all be able to hopefully clearly understand what these people are talking about. Because I think for the most part, most of us feel that if it were explained to a 6-year-old, we would be able to grasp it.
Well, I want to get more into 9/11. Let's talk about, you told me that it was great meeting Karen Johnston out in Phoenix when you were there visiting, when you went to the 9/11 Truth event and spoke there. And then I love the video of the media trying to attack you, and you throw it right back at them and say, you explain it to me, because the official story doesn't answer any of the real questions. And even the 9/11 Commission says they weren't allowed to even do their job. So recap what your experience was like, really getting in with both feet into 9/11 Truth out in Arizona.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some dedicated people is the first thing I want to say. Senator Karen Johnson, to me, shows tremendous courage because she's a current elected official who is making no bones about the fact that she feels that the 9/11 investigation was completely botched and that there certainly should be a second investigation done, even though at this point in time it would be exceptionally difficult because as I stated earlier, there's no evidence. It's all been destroyed. So nobody can go there and get anything scientific, it isn't made available to anybody. But the people out there are super dedicated people, and they're coming from all walks of life, which is the thing that I'm really noticing and that really makes me feel good. Not only do you have a strong group of young people, whom you would expect. I grew up in the 60s, so, I know what it's like for young people to bolt from the status quo. I grew up in the generation that we used to say, don't trust anyone over 30. I remember that famous quote. And, so you've naturally got young people that are heavily involved. But then there were also professional people out there who are involved, people who you wouldn't expect to be involved, who have taken time and studied it a little bit. And I think that's really the thing that needs to happen in this country. We've got to break away. I had a guy the other day just look at me and smile, and he's at the golf club, and he said, I don't believe any of that conspiracy stuff. And I looked at him and I said, well, what knowledge do you actually have? What have you done to study it at all? Are you simply going on what the television has told you and what the government has told you, and you just blindly accept that today? And this guy was a Vietnam veteran, Alex. I would expect him to be a little bit more cynical, in light of the fact they've now revealed the Gulf of Tonkin incident never happened, and, in the fraudulent whole Vietnam War.
Well, the NSA...
How we wouldn't allow elections in Vietnam because they knew Ho Chi Minh would win them, and things of that nature. And so, and it irks me that the public is so, they don't want to, maybe it's because they don't want to believe anything else, but that isn't the attitude to have, and that's not going to do us any good because, you can stick your hole in the head, but it doesn't mean things are going to go away and they're going to be right. The only way that happens is by people being involved, paying attention, and doing a little detective work on their own and understanding that you cannot trust the mainstream media today and you cannot trust our government today.
Absolutely, and it's the denial that there could be corruption or there could be a problem that has allowed the corruption to take over. History shows you're always going to have corrupt groups and criminal organizations and elites trying to take over and set up empires and abuse the average person's rights and liberty and property. And so to deny that any of that exists in history or in this country is the greatest folly, and we're about to reap the whirlwind on that front. Governor, we're going to break in a moment. When we get back,
Alex, let me throw this out for a minute. The other thing I find so mind-boggling in this whole affair of 9/11 is the fact that we will so quickly believe that 19 Islamic radicals with box cutters could do what happened that day, but we totally throw out that us on the Christian side could never do something like that.
Oh, that's a great point. In fact, let's keep talking about 9/11. Then I want to get into your book, and I want to talk about what's coming up in Austin with yourself and Willie Nelson and I, and a lot more, and maybe take a few calls at 1-800-259-9231. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN.
All right, let me talk to Ventura.
Out that us on the Christian side could never do something like that.
Oh, that's a great point. In fact, let's keep talking about 9/11. Then I want to get into your book, and I want to talk about what's coming up in Austin with yourself and Willie Nelson and I, and a lot more, and maybe take a few calls at 1-800-259-9231. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
A day unlike any other in the long course of American history, a terrorist act of war against this country.
The enemy struck America on September 11th. But who is the enemy?
Bin Laden. This is his MO.
We have to look to the Middle East. We have to look to Osama bin Laden.
Fabled Enemies is the first 9/11 film to take a close look at the terrorist ties to intelligence networks inside the United States.
Some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained.
Bin Laden's connections to the CIA, the hijackers' ties to the FBI, the Saudi Arabian connection, the Israeli intelligence network, warnings and war games, the shadow government, and much, much more. Fabled Enemies. Get the DVD at Infowars.com or see it in super high quality, along with hundreds of other titles at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
You ever have one of those days where everything goes right? First, I get the best parking space at work. Tonight, I have a date with the very lovely Rachel. And today, I gave a killer presentation in Sydney, finalized a contract in London, and demoed our new product in Boston. Online from my desk with WebEx. WebEx lets me take meetings and give presentations from my desk. I just talk to clients on the phone, and they watch what's happening on my desktop from their desktop. So I can travel the world and still be here for my date tonight with Rachel.
Travel less, meet online. Go to Webex.com and try WebEx free. Just click the radio graphic and enter promo code 500 to get a free trial and a free webcam, too. Remember that code, 500, to qualify for the free webcam. WebEx, now part of Cisco and used by more than 5.5 million people every month. Give it a try, free. Go to webex.com and enter the promo code 500. WEBEX.com. Free webcams available while supplies last. Terms and restrictions apply. See website for details.
Don't be a victim of sudden cardiac arrest due to inflammation of the arterial walls. Our hemp foods are anti-inflammatory and gluten-free and can greatly benefit the health of the human body. By calling 908-691-2608 or visiting hempusa.org, you can benefit from this wonderful natural food source. Our customers are also purchasing this natural food for long-term storage, camping, survival, and emergency food rations. Call 908-691-2608 or visit hemp.
Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.